Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Emil, and in this webinar I'm going to do a quick overview of what's new in the Fair Usage Policy module within DataTool. Please note, if your screen's a bit blurry, make sure you increase the video quality to 720 or higher. Since I'm using quite a large monitor, the text is quite small. So you can ask questions by entering them on the right-hand side next to the video, and then I'll do my utmost to answer these questions at the end. So the Fair Usage Policy module enables you to now manage your data accounts in three ways. There's the original way it's always been done, and you can now add additional speed limits, or you can add speed boost. So in this webinar, we're going to touch a few topics. I'm going to show you how to change your data products to activate the new Fair Usage Policy settings, how it currently behaves. I'm going to explain a bit about what Fair Usage Policies are. This can get quite complicated, so make sure you've got a coffee handy. I'm going to tell you why you actually need these things and how they work and how they are calculated. And then I'll show you a very nifty cool feature. Okay, so before you get too excited, the Fair Usage Policy module is not yet live. It's currently in beta testing, and we will be rolling it out next week. So during the course of the next month, everyone will get the Fair Usage Policy functionality within their system. So at a glance, those of you that are quite eager would have noticed on this active radius session screen, there's already a change you can see. So on the right-hand side, there's a new column called radius status, which tells you what policy has been applied to these active radius sessions. So without having to go anywhere, you can immediately see whether any of your users have been shaped or their speed have been boosted or they've been soft capped, etc. Okay, so let's dive into the deep part. So when we go to data, before I even go in there, you'll notice that this menu has been renamed. So it no longer says radius, it now says data, because we're consolidating all the data products into one menu. So you'll see that this menu also contains LTE items. So fiber, wireless, LTE is now all consolidated into one menu. So when we go to data products, I'm going to show you the first product, which is the one I'm testing with. You'll notice that there's a new tab on this product called data limits. We've moved the attributes from the radius services onto the product itself, which makes maintaining these products a lot simpler. So you only have to go to one place now to manage your product. So this is what a typical traditional product would look like. You'll have a monthly data limit of 500 megs, a speed of 10 meg down and 5 meg up. And because I've said this is a soft cap product, there's also a capped speed, which means once the user's exceeded these 500 megs, his speed is going to change to the capped speed. If this was a hard capped product, the user would be capped at 500 megs and he would no longer have any internet access. So what does this actually mean? So if we go back to our active radius session screen, we can see that these two active sessions both at the moment have default speed. So the bottom one is the one that's using my product that we're looking at now. So I can now go and apply a fair usage policy to this product to change the behavior. But before we get there, let's talk a bit about what is a fair usage policy? Why do we need fair usage policies? Now, typically a WISP sells a bit of bandwidth that he has to share with a lot of people. So if someone misbehaves and abuses the internet, it affects everyone else. And it impacts the quality of the service, and B, it limits the amount of Radius users or data accounts that can simultaneously use that connection. So the way to mitigate this is to introduce a fair usage policy, which means that users are penalized for abusing or overusing their account. So we don't just have a stick, we also have a carrot, which means we can also give people an increase in speed. We don't just reduce their speed, we can also boost their speed. So how does this work? Now you'll see there's a switch here to enable the FUP module or fair usage policy, which then immediately asks me for a speed limit policy and a speed boost policy. So let's go back to the beginning and what is the speed limit policy? So there's a new screen in the system that allows you to define your speed limit policies. So a speed limit policy contains a rolling window, which means it will look at your data usage over a specific period. It does not have to be the entire month. It can be the last number of days. So say you've got people that really hammer the system. So you want to incentivize them to, like, you're still allowed to hammer the system, but then they have a cool off period. So the easiest way to explain this is to show you a drawing. So what I'm going to do is, say at the bottom of the screen, we have the days of the week. And on the left hand, we have gigabytes. So on day one, this guy used a bit of internet. On day two, he used a bit more. Day three, day four, you get the picture. So now we say our fair usage policy is going to look at 3 days. And it's going to look at the percentage of your allowed data. So say our product is 3 gigs. So therefore, if they get to 3 gigs, they've reached 100% of usage. Okay, if they get to 2 gigs, they've used 66% of the usage. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, right, we take 3 days and we add up how much data does that account to. If that is higher than the red line, it means they've reached 100%, so they should be penalized according to a 100% limit. So let's show you an example of an existing fair usage policy. So this one says between 0 and 19%, limit my speed down to 80%, etc. Eventually, when it gets over 90% usage, make the internet so slow it's unusable. There's no limit as to how many step downs you can have. These are infinite. So the way the calculation works is on day 3, it looks over the last 3 days total usage. Then on the next day, it will go and will look at those 3 days. So eventually you'll get to a period where your total for the last 3 days drops below the green line. If it does that, then it means that you're back at 80% or whatever you're allowed to be. If you're in this scenario where your usage is high, your speed's going to sit, for example, at 20%. So that's what all these levels means, these limits means. There's 2 ways, remember, of calculating. We can look at the percentage of usage. In other words, have you used 50% of your monthly allowance? Or we can look at a fixed size. A fixed size, for example, would be I've used 10 gigs, or I've used 5 gigs, or I've used 20 gigs. The same with how we define what to do with the speed. We can say we want to reduce your speed to 80%, or we can say we want to use a fixed speed. So we reduce your speed down to a specific speed, 1 meg per second, or 100 kilobytes a second, or whatever. So both the measuring of how much you've used can be fixed or percentage, as well as the speed reduction can be a percentage, or a fixed speed. So this is the speed limit policy. This is what we use to reduce the speed based on how much data you've actually used. Then we also have speed boost policies. Now the speed boost is used to give you additional speed. The typical scenario would be in the middle of the night, you've got a lot of excess bandwidth, so you want to give people a faster speed. So you would have, for instance, double data at night. Or depending on your network, if your network is quiet in the mornings, you may want to give people a speed boost in the morning. So we have the ability to define a speed boost policy. So for example, I've got a double at night policy here that says between 10 p.m. at night and 6 a.m. in the morning, I'm going to boost the speed to 200%. In other words, someone that is on this policy would get double their speed between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Now, I can also say if it is a public holiday, this policy applies the entire day. So for 24 hours on a public holiday, they will get double their speed. I can also do the same for a Saturday and Sunday. And then again, just like the speed limit policy, the speed boost policy also allows you to define the speed increment either as a percentage or as a fixed speed. So I may say that at night, everyone on this product is going to get 20 megs up and down. Then the important thing is, am I going to give people a speed boost if they're already being penalized because they've gone over their allowed usage? So I have the choice to say this speed boost policy will also be applicable if someone is already being limited by reduced speed. And I can also say, is this allowed if they're in a soft cap situation? So you've got total control as to when these speed boost policies actually take effect. So just to recap, speed limits are there to reduce usage, to reduce your speed based on your actual usage. Speed boost policies is there to increase your speed during off-peak times on the network. Okay, so let's go back to our product. This is our traditional product, and we're now going to turn this into a fair usage enabled product. So we turn the switch on and we choose which of these speed limit and speed boost policies we're going to apply. The one field here I'm going to come back to is the queue routers. That's the secret surprise I'll tell you about later. So we save those changes. Now our product has become a fair usage-based product, which means all the users on that product will now start changing their speeds. So every time a Radius session sends in an accounting update, which happens between 1 minute and 5 minutes, depending on the settings on your system, Radius will evaluate the usage against the speed policies, and if needs be, will change their speed. So if we look at this screen, we'll see these two Radius sessions are currently sitting there at 5 megs. That one has just changed. If you were very quick, you would have seen its speed change. Because it now, if I refreshes the screen, you'll see it has had its speed reduced as the result of a speed policy that is now in effect. Now you're going to say, yeah, but this is so hard to know. Now the customer phones in and says, but hang on, my internet is suddenly super slow. What's going on? So we've made it easy for help desk. So they go to the customer screen. This is the traditional view of that customer. They will immediately see on the screen that this user speed has been reduced down to 3 megs. So even though he's on the 10 meg package, he's at a speed reduction. Should I refresh the screen, it's very obvious whenever you go to the customer screen that you'll see that data account speed has been reduced. So whether you go to the edit customer screen or the ticket screen, you'll see this yellow bar will appear if any of the data accounts for that customer has had a reduction in speed. If I go to the customer's actual usage screen and I reload that, you'll see the same yellow bar, And this account has multiple radius sessions. So you'll see one of them is highlighted to say that the speed has now been reduced. And I can see on the right here that the user normally has a 510 connection, but his speed has been reduced down to 3.4. So for the help desk, it's actually quite easy to now tell this guy, but hang on, sir, your internet has been reduced because there's a fair usage policy in play. Okay, so one of the things I briefly mentioned on speed boost policies is the idea of public holidays. So we've added in the system the ability to define public holidays. So what that means is that if we go into our system and we go to calendar, you'll see public holidays will now appear. Let's go to December, where there's lots of public holidays. That one shouldn't be there. Let me get rid of it. So basically, your data tool system will automatically pull public holidays from a centralized server. So it will know when there are public holidays. But let's say, for example, we want to create our own special public holiday. We can do that. I've got one prepared and I'm simply going to drop it onto today. So now today has become a public holiday. And I have a speed boost policy that says my speed boost is available for the entire day on public holidays. So that means instead of this user having his speed reduced, he now goes green, which means the system tells me that his speed has been boosted to 10 meg and 20 meg because a public holiday is in effect. If you look at the radius session, you'll see that's also increased. So this speed change is done without disconnecting the radius session. We actually do a change of authorization packet to the router, which changes the radius speed on the fly. So if I look at my active radius sessions, go back to that screen, you'll see that it's here also indicated that this user now has his speed boosted. And if I reload my edit customer screen, that will also show me in green that one of my customers has a speed boost in effect. Okay, so you're all with me. It's all fairly easy to use. It's a bit complicated to understand the setup, but once you've got the hang of it, it works automatically. Right, now, something exciting that I've done at the same time. If we go to our products, we have a field here which is queue routers. So normally, the system would use a radius router and a radius attribute to define the speed, and that speed will sit on the MikroTik router as it's sitting here, and it would change. But if I have a parent and a child account that shares the same package, they're not going to share the same queue. So if we take our example here, where we have a parent account and a child account, we say that this child account has a fixed IP address and it belongs to that parent, and together they must share one 10 meg queue. So traditionally, what MikroTik would do is it would create two queues for the two products. But what I want the system to do is I want one queue for both accounts so that they can both together be limited to 10 megs. So the way we do it is we tell the product to maintain static simple queues for us on a specific router. We can select multiple routers, which means, for instance, say you've got a main breakout and a failover breakout, each with their own gateway router. You can maintain these queues across both routers. So either way the traffic flows, the speed queues will be in effect. For this example, I'm just going to use the one, and I'm going to make that change. So what we'll see happen within a minute is that this queue will actually be removed, the dynamic queue, and it will be replaced by a static queue. which is a background job that runs all the time, that periodically goes and cleans up these queues. So should one of your users be clever, or one of your staff, which happens quite often, and drop their own queue to get their speeds back, the queues will be auto recreated, and you can even create the queue on a router further upstream so that it's not available on the router on the high site where they connect to. So there you've seen it just happen. There's 2 auto queues that's now appeared in the system. And the one queue you'll notice have multiple IP addresses in it. Because there's multiple accounts, a master and sub accounts that's now affected by this queue. So the system is now auto maintaining the queue. Now I can go and fiddle this queue, and within a minute, the system will reset it back to the way it should be. I can also say that I actually want those queues to be overridden for specific users. So the system allows me to do that. When I edit the data account at the bottom, it says either to leave it blank, to use the default that's already defined on the product, or I can go and override it for a specific user and use a different router or combination of routers to maintain my speed limits. So thank you for watching our fair usage policy overview. If there are any questions or something you want me to show you again, use the chat session on the right to ask me some questions. Okay, so Gina, thanks for your question. Can a customer buy a top-up? Okay, so the way this works is the usage is calculated based on your monthly cap. So if we go to our speed limit policy and we see data usage mode percentage. So what that means is if you've used, for example, 50% of your monthly allocation, your speed will be reduced. So if you're on a 10 gig package, 50% means 5 gigs. But if I now do a 2 gig top up, then 50% is actually 6 gigs. So yes, the answer is you can use a top up to increase your speed. So in other words, you can top up to reduce the effect the speed limits have on your account. So Marguerite, yes, the answer is yes. All data used is calculated during the boost period. An upcoming feature that's not included in the fair usage policy module is the whitelisting of data. This would, for example, be something like Netflix or Showmax data that you don't want to count, but you want to charge at a fixed price. So that will be coming in a future development inside Datatel. Okay, thank you everyone for watching our fair usage policy overview. Please remember, subscribe to our channel and watch our weekly webinars, which takes place every Thursday at 4 p.m.